Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. Coming up, we head to Louth to find out about one man's quest to document the town's benches. And we go to Grimsby Minster for another Reflections. And my guest tonight is Paul Williams, CEO of Seafish, here to tell us about the World Seafood Congress, which opened in Grimsby today. Welcome to Estuary News. I'm Emma Lingard. Now it's time for the news headlines.
The World Seafood Congress continues today with people from all over the globe attending the event being hosted in Grimsby. On Sunday night, the opening party kicked off at the Cleethorpes Pier, with the main event taking place at the Grimsby Institute all week. The new managers of the pier, Brian and Simon Huxford, told us why the pier is the ideal venue.
As far as I'm concerned, it is an iconic building. There isn't another one, in Cleethorpes or Grimsby. So I just thought, well, it's what people recognise when they look at Cleethorpes. Every picture you see, nearly every picture, and every postcard's got somewhere pointing to the pier,
It would be nice that tonight the delegates, the invited guests, will get a feel for what an old Victorian pier was all about utilising it for family entertainment, for food, for drink, and indeed for business.
And the event is hoping to provide something just a little bit different than your average conference.
What we wanted to make sure is that delegates didn't just come to a hotel, to a conference and leave and not experience the delights of North East Lincolnshire. We wanted to give them a proper welcome and to experience what we have to offer. And the pier, what a fantastic venue for tonight's event. The team worked really hard to deliver a quality event for tonight, down to the food and the showgirls, everything. And we've got some fabulous little goodie bags as well for the delegates to take away with them.
Links-inspired libraries are putting out a call for Day of the Dead tattoos. The unusual request comes off the back of the Museums at Night event organised in October. As part of it, there will be an exhibition of local tattoo art in the foyer of Grimsby Central Library.
I know the Fishing Heritage Centre and Abbey Walk Gallery will be staying open later, specifically for museums at night. So it's really so that people can take in all the venues, if they so choose, on those 2 nights. The theme of Day of the Dead really was chosen because it's Halloween. So we thought something spooky, something a bit ghosty ghouly would be kind of appropriate, really.
And if you've got a death-themed tattoo you'd like to have submitted as part of the exhibition, then you can email derek.o'connell@linksinspire.com, as they're keen for more photographs to get involved in the exhibit. That's all from me for now, and I'll be back with more news soon. Bye-bye.
Blogging is all the rage. People have taken to writing blogs about politics, crafts, sports, anything really. Well, how about park benches? Dan Kemp has been to Louth to meet a man that believes he's documented each and every bench in the town.
The bench, an unremarkable object, used for sitting, not much else. You probably go day to day without even noticing them. But if you look around, they're everywhere. Eamon Griffin of Louth was a university lecturer until a short while ago, and has now dedicated part of his freelance writing work to the humble object.
It started out by me looking around the town of Louth and one day coming across a bench that wasn't there. Now, that might be like a really sort of mundane kind of thing, but this is on the street where I was brought up and raised, and it was on the way to my primary school, and all of a sudden it wasn't there, and it was its lack of being there that drew my attention to it.
So Eamon realised that the bench meant something to him, but he didn't stop by just evoking his own memories. He's now taken to the web to let others into his world of the bench.
I gave myself the idea, the task if you like, of going around all the benches in Louth and associating myself with them in some way, shape or form, to see what kind of personal recollections that they trigger, or what local history was attached to those places. Perhaps even wonder why that bench had been sited there, whether they were put there to commemorate somebody, they were dedicated to a certain person, all of those kinds of things.
And he's discovered it's not just him interested.
There's been a really nice response, both locally from people who are interested in the personal collection and local history aspect of things, and also some national interest as well. It locks in to a certain extent with a field of study that's usually known as psychogeography. Whether it's a bench or whether it's a football pitch or a church or a telephone box or whatever it might be, usually people use these kind of places for personal time and space. There might have been a place to meet your girlfriend when you were young, there a place to stop off and make a phone call, somewhere to sit down and have a think or some private time to yourself. And quite often people remember those associations and they link them back, so that the places are associated with the memories and the context of where people find themselves.
And does Eamon have a favourite bench?
My favourite bench so far is up on Grimsby Road in Louth, and I like it because it's almost not there. It's half overgrown, it's in the middle of a pavement going halfway up a hill, and you can see the reason why it used to be there, that it would be a stopping off point up a steep hill on the walk to and from town, and now because most people drive to places and it's on a main road, hardly anybody stops there anymore, and it's slowly fading out of existence as the undergrowth takes it over.
So there you go. Do you have a favourite bench? If you do, let us know. Share it with us, sending a photograph and telling us why. And you can do that via our Facebook or Twitter pages, or email news@estuary.tv. Or if you've a story you want us to look at, then call 01472 315 553. Well, you're watching Estuary News, still to come. It's time for another weekly Reflections, and we'll have all the latest local sports news and results. Grimsby is playing host to the World Seafood Congress 2015. Delegates and speakers have come from across the globe to the town to learn more about sustainability, food processing and to make new contacts. To tell us more about this global event is Paul Williams, CEO of Seafish, whose aim is to secure a sustainable future for the UK's seafood industry. Paul, welcome to the studio. Exciting time really for the UK, because this is the first, isn't it?
It's the first time the Congress has been to the UK, so it's a big event for us. Nearly 2 years ago now, we were pitching to bring it to the UK, and we explained how Grimsby is such a centre for the seafood industry, not just for the UK but for the whole of Europe, and I think that's what got the International Association to agree to bring it here. Because
that is a big coup, I suppose, to have it,
absolutely.
especially in this area, isn't it?
There's getting on for 300 people from all around the world, senior guys in the seafood industry from every country, government, NGOs, and leading industry people. It's an exciting time. Now,
you've given the opening speech today. I mean, what's the buzz out there at the moment?
I think the thing that's interesting at the minute in the industry is I think the debate is kind of moving on. And what I mean by that is we've been on sustainability for a long time. And before that, I guess it was product safety. So, it's food safety, then it was sustainability. And I'm not saying that every issue in those areas is done and dusted, but we're a long way down the line with them. I think the big issue that's coming in now is ethics. Okay. So how people are treated in the industry, the welfare of individuals, and product integrity. I mean, post the Horsegate scandal, a lot needed to be done to reassure consumers about what they were actually eating, as well as the practices in the supply chain.
And the seafood event itself, I mean, it's more about sort of like networking as well and learning new things, isn't it?
All of these things. I mean, you put on lots of, as the organisers, we put on a lot of interesting speakers, and we try and make sure that the topics are all covered, and we've got really high profile speakers. But of course you're right, a lot of the value in an event like this is actually outside the event itself, almost in the informal events in the evenings, in the having a drink, in the coffee breaks. It's about making new contacts, making new relationships, learning from your peers, and a lot of that isn't necessarily inside the formal structures.
Now, I know last night it was the VIP welcome at the pier, which I know you missed. I did attend that, and I know the buzz there was about, there's a lot of local traders from the North East Lincolnshire area, that it was that feel of getting to make those contacts, that there is new trade to be had, isn't there?
One of the things that we were really keen to do, and we've worked with North East Links Council on this, is to make sure that we were bringing something into the Grimsby region rather than just holding an event here that was kind of isolated in its own bubble. So we've been trying to find ways of bringing local businesses in.
Right.
Because, of course, we're a big seafood hub and we've got people who are involved in seafood from all around the world. So there are deals to be done, there are conversations to be had, there are, relationships to be built with local businesses as well as people who are at the actual Congress.
Now, I know I've seen the list. There are so many speakers talking about so many topics. Is there a particular one that you're looking forward to dropping into?
I think we've got some really interesting sessions on international trade. So we've got speakers who've come in from countries all around the world, and countries that, to be honest, I don't know a lot about in terms of their seafood trade. So countries like, I was listening to a really interesting talk this morning about Malawi, landlocked country in the middle of Africa. So why have they got any? Well, they've got one of the world's biggest lakes,
Right.
a lot of food coming out of that, and a lot of interest in international trade. So the bits that I'm really looking forward to are more of those sessions on international trade.
Okay, well, we're going to stop there, but stay with us because we're going to come back to you shortly. Well, join me after the break when we'll be talking more about the World Seafood Congress, but also the Reverend Canon Andrew Dodd from Grimsby Minster will bring us today's reflections, and we'll have all the latest local sports news and results. Welcome back, you're watching Estuary News. Still to come, we head to the Minster in Grimsby for reflections, and we'll bring you the latest local sports news and results. Now, still with me in the studio talking about the World Seafood Congress is Paul Williams, CEO of Seafish. We were talking just before the break there about some of the speakers that have come in. Now, one of the big name speakers that I recognised was Sir Ranulph Fiennes. What's his actual connection with seafood?
Really, his connection is only in the sense, one of the things I said when I was talking this morning is, if you want somebody who's faced big global challenges, even bigger than working in the seafood industry, then he's the man to go to. The world's greatest living explorer.
Yes.
The things he's done, just astonishing. So he's going to be the guest speaker at our dinner, our gala dinner on Tuesday evening, and I'm really interested to hear what he's got to say.
I was going to say it'd be very interesting what some of his views may be on that. I mean, so far, you know, you've been out there today talking to people. What are people's perceptions of the area so far?
I think it's interesting. Of course, a lot of people have come in. Some of the people who are here have never seen the UK before, never mind Grimsby, and have come in here. But I think what struck people really favourably, first of all, is the Institute itself.
Okay.
So the facilities here, the job that they've done in laying on this conference and helping organise the Congress with us has been fantastic. So a big thank you to them. But also I think people are perhaps a little surprised at how big the seafood industry is here.
Right.
Its importance not just in UK terms, but in European terms. And I think for some people who are coming from outside Europe, there's some kind of new messages here, some surprises for them.
Which is good, isn't it? Because I know people say, okay, fishing industry may have died, we don't have the fleet, but we've got such a hub of food processing, haven't we, in this area?
It's still 70% of the food processing industry in the UK is in this one little area, and we've got all the big businesses here.
Yeah.
So it's still hugely important for the UK.
It is. One of the things, obviously, you know, talking about fish and eating fish, do you think we as a nation eat enough fish? Because I know that's one of the messages Seafish like to get across.
One of the things that we're trying to do, one of our big goals, is more people eating more fish more often. Because no, of course we don't eat enough fish, nothing like. Government recommendations, and this is kind of as a minimum, remember, is you should be eating 2 portions of fish a week, and one of those should be an oily fish. And we're nowhere near that. And it's funny because the health message, in a way, isn't that big a help. In that pretty well everybody recognises that they should be eating more fish and that it's healthy for them. And you know, their mothers taught them that as they were growing up, and they all know it. It's getting people to actually do it.
Yeah, and it's one of those messages, isn't it? Spread out there.
Yeah.
We were talking as well, one of the things you were talking about is ethics now in looking more at the welfare of, you know, people working within the industry. you know, one of the things that I just read about in this report was about upskilling as well. Grimsby's moving forward now, isn't it, going into renewables and things. Do you find that there's still a lot of people that have worked in the seafood industry, whether it's fishing or processing, that start to look at what they do when their life comes to an end at some point in their jobs?
I think there's two issues really there. One is we have to work hard at attracting people into the industry. Again, I think there are some real misconceptions from outside the industry about working in the fishing industry or the seafood industry being a limited career choice, filleting fish and there's nothing else to it, there's nowhere to go, and there isn't the understanding that we're a very technologically advanced industry. There's always new product development going on, there's always advances in the machinery and the kit and the products, and I think that's kind of missed by public perception.
Right,
so there's a big issue about bringing people into the industry. But also, you're right, there are, particularly in this area now, there are other industries taking off and we're competing with them for resources in terms of the people.
We are. Well, that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for coming in during this, and good luck for the rest of the Congress.
Thank you.
When we were asked to do this, you know, I guess some people might think we were kind of mad, but I think we were privileged, and it was Humber Seafood Cluster who, and that was a key group of employers who all worked together to promote and support particularly the seafood sector, and it was Mike Dillon as part of that group who suggested that we would do it, and I said yes, let's go for it. And when you think it's normally held in places like Canada, Newfoundland, or Washington DC, we're competing, so how fantastic is that?
We're very fortunate to have this. It's a biannual event, and last time it's in Canada, next time's probably going to be in Iceland. The pitch was put in, say, 2 years ago. I think it's very important to Grimsby, because Grimsby is still the centre of seafood processing. We have more processing in this area than they do anywhere else in the UK, and I think it's a great opportunity to showcase the expertise and innovation that we have for our local industry.
It's a national, world-leading event. It's bringing together key players in the industry, whether it's the processors, academics, specialists, private and public sector, and other officials, to the home of seafood, Great Grimsby. And it literally does put Great Grimsby on the map, North East Lincolnshire on the map, and it's an opportunity to showcase what is great about one of our very vibrant sectors, seafood processing.
And now it's time for the weekly reflections, and this week it's the Reverend Canon Andrew Dodd from Grimsby Minster.
My children started school this week. My eldest is now in year 6, the final year of her primary school education, and will soon be making choices about her secondary school. It's been a joy-sharing family life as we've grown up in Grimsby, but being a parent also brings anxieties. Recently, the Children's Society published a report called the Good Childhood Report, with the headline news that children in England are unhappier with their school life than in almost any other country in the world. As well as being unhappy with their school life, the study also showed that children in England were particularly dissatisfied with their appearance and body confidence, with girls being the most affected. This report raised serious questions about what we're doing as a society to make our children so unhappy. If a mark of a civilized nation is how we treat our most vulnerable members, then we're not doing a very good job. We pay enormous attention to things like the state of the economy or the National Health Service, but it seems that we're quite at ease at ignoring the mental health and well-being of our children. When Jesus wanted to show people what God thought was important, He took a little child and said we need to become one like one. He didn't mean this in a sentimental kind of way, but he used a child as a symbol of vulnerability and showed us how important it is to support the marginalised. Children are marginalised. They aren't able to vote, they don't have very much money, they're dependent on others for their food and their clothing. Children are not just our future, they're our present. Their well-being matters to us all, not just to schools and families. I'm pleased to see that organisations like the Children's Society are raising issues that a childhood should be as good as it can be.
Now it's time for the sport.
In cricket, over the weekend, Yorkshire Academy beat Appleby Frodingham 154 to 131. Castleford beat Driffield 155 to 129. Hull beat Barnsley 230 over 6. Cleethorpes won 129 over 6, opposite Sheffield Collegiates 127. The win secures a 6th place finish for Cleethorpes in the final league table. The Mariners have ended their streak of poor luck with a win in Hertfordshire last night. They won 3-1 thanks to strikes from Scott Doe, Omar Bogle and Nathan Arnold. Holsomley Clay Cricket Club are unsure how to proceed after a suspected arson attack ripped through their clubhouse on Saturday night. Several members were inside the clubhouse at the time, although fortunately no one was injured. However, a car was badly damaged. Fire crews responded from Louth, Binbrook, Grimsby and Immingham. Louth's Rosalind Cantor came 37th in her debut at the Bewley Horse Trials over the weekend, with an impressive start in the dressage on her horse All-Star B, which saw her finish in 10th place. The cross-country phase was marred only by a slight slip up in Discovery Valley. This was followed on day 3 by an impressive round in the show jumping, where she clocked up a 1-time penalty. However, she did win the prize for the highest placed British first-timer.
Quite a local rider here, so it's an event I've been coming to for probably over 20 years to spectate at, so to finally get here is it's really exciting. I've always said I wanted to do a 4-star before I was 30 and I'm 29 3/4, so it's good to be here.
And that's all for the sport.
That's all for tonight. If you've a news story, then visit our Facebook or Twitter pages. Details are on the screen. Or email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 315 553. Until tomorrow, good night.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Grimsby Institute for a brighter future.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Tuesday will be a much cloudier day on the whole, although remaining fine with some sunny spells, with maximum temperatures of 15 degrees. On Wednesday it'll be dry throughout with variable cloud and becoming warmer later on.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Grimsby Institute for a brighter future.